There's a difference between knowing a thing and being changed by it. Most of us know about Auschwitz. We learned it in school. We saw the photographs. We carry the story somewhere in the back of the mind. This is an episode about what happens when people stop knowing about that place from a distance and go sit down inside it. It starts with Barbara. She grew up hearing about the Holocaust from her parents. She never intended to go anywhere near it.
It was never in my mind to do a retreat in Auschwitz. But of course, Auschwitz was for me a well-known story, of course. So I heard very early in my childhood from my parents about the Holocaust. And then in 1999, I went to the retreat. And of course, this was completely overwhelming. I remember that in this first retreat, I think I was mainly crying every day. It was so overwhelming for me and so sad to just to bear witness with human beings to each other. So I recognized that this was really different than just to hear about or read about, to be at the place, to read the names of the people who were killed there and being together. So it was a very, very deep experience. And for me, in a way, the first retreat never stopped in all these years. It was like always with me since then. It really was a big change in my life.
The first retreat never stopped. Hold on to that, because almost everyone in this story is going to describe the same strange thing in their own words. You go to this place once, and some part of you keeps sitting there for the rest of your life. From Zen Peacemakers, this is the Peacemakers Podcast. I'm Jim. Today, the Auschwitz-Birkenau Bearing Witness Retreat, and a handful of people trying to explain why anyone would choose to sit down at the worst place on the map. Stay with us. The retreat began with a man who didn't plan it either. Bernie Glassman, the founder of Zen Peacemakers, walked into Birkenau one day and felt something take hold of him.
Walking into Birkenau, and I was immediately grabbed by the feeling that I had to come and do a retreat there and sit there. And so that formed the idea of having the retreat, and I decided to invite some people, and the number grew to 150 from all over the world. I certainly feel that Auschwitz is one of the important power places of our globe. And in walking into Birkenau, you can feel the million souls right there. So they're there, the energy is there, and they want to be remembered, and they want to go home. And that corresponds to the parts of ourselves that want to be remembered, brought back together. It's very different to go there and to walk in and see it and leave than to stay and sit with those souls and with the energy there. It's important for the people going, and it's important for the souls that are there, I feel.
Abraham, Mitzvah, Ziyari, easy.
Bernie isn't only talking about the dead. He's saying the longing in that place, to be remembered, to be made whole, is also a longing inside the people who come. The place outside and the place inside begin to mirror each other.
So at Auschwitz, we sit every day at the selection site where Dr. Mengele and other Nazi doctors directed people either to the work camp or to the gas chambers after they were unloaded on the ramp there, the train ramp. And so we sit there, and we sit in silence, and we also read names of the people who died.
Fleet Maull has done a lot of this kind of work, and he's honest about what his own body does when he sits there.
When I'm in those environments, I can't kid myself about how open or compassionate I am. because I can literally feel my heart shutting down to protect myself. And that's normal. That's what our heart does. And thankfully, I can feel when it opens as well. I can literally feel my heart opening and closing, and I can feel, obviously I'm breathing and wanting to stay open. I'm there in Auschwitz, and we're sitting in the selection site. I'm really working to stay open, but I can feel the fear. I can feel,
Here's where the practice gets specific, because the natural thing to do with that much pain is to find somewhere to put it.
I think part of the bearing witness work is we're willing to expose ourselves to suffering, but to do it in a way that it's not just going to take us into self-shaming or take us into blaming, because our instinct is to find somebody, we're so enculturated in a culture of shame and blame in the West that our instinct is to either blame ourselves or blame somebody else. I got to find somebody to blame here. Who kind of blame? That's all those horrible people. It's those horrible people, or I'm horrible. It's, and that doesn't take anybody anywhere. But when you can sit, this is painful, this is excruciating, this is horrifying, and to not externalize, but see, in the right circumstances, maybe I would be capable of this, or maybe I might be victimized in this way. But you own the energy of it, and you're willing to sit with it and sit in that hot fire of true bearing witness. Because when we're really sit in that hot fire of genuine bearing witness without blaming, without externalizing, and without trying to escape into concepts, if we really stay in not knowing, right? We don't try to wrap it up in some kind of package of concepts, but we stay in the pain of it. And when we have some container to do that in a relatively supportive way, then that starts burning away all that's not needed.
Sitting in the pain of a thing without packaging it, without escaping into an idea about it, without handing it to someone to blame. In Zen Peacemakers, this is one of the 3 tenets: not knowing, bearing witness, taking action. And Fleet has a name for what it feels like. He calls it charnel groundwork. And then he says the thing I keep coming back to. You don't actually need Auschwitz for it.
The more we do that work, which is charnel groundwork, that's sitting in our own charnel ground. That's sitting in the hot fire, and we all have that in our lives. So we can go to Auschwitz for it, but it's already there in our life in some form or another. And when you're willing to really bear witness to that and be there without trying to get rid of it, without trying to package it, without trying to blame for it, without feeling victimized by it, without blaming oneself for it, but you're just willing to sit with the rawness of it. And what's left is authentic presence and one's ability to hold space for others. And I think that's very unique.
This is where the whole story tilts. Because if you'd asked me at the start, I would have told you a retreat at Auschwitz is about the past, about history, about not forgetting what happened back then.
All humanity has to see that part of themselves which they are trying to forget, which has led to the possibility of Holocaust and genocides. This is still going on. And there's a part of us which will allow us to dehumanize people and then to kill people. I feel that there is that part of us. And it's a part that we don't want to touch. And Auschwitz is a monument, a world monument to that aspect of ourselves.
It's not about the time, right? It's not about this happened 50 years ago or 100 years ago or 200 years ago. When we do these bearing witness retreats, what we're addressing is our reaction to them and what's going on in us, right? So if we can shift our conscience about racism, meaning not only racism to blacks in the 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th century, but to Native Americans for the last 500 years, or to Jews and whoever the Nazis considered to be not Aryan at Auschwitz in 1939 to 1945. If we can see how we feel about that and how that moves us, and our consciousness is shifted, these bearing witness retreats shift our conscience in the present moment so that whoever we meet or wherever we see a situation arising like that again or existing like that now, our whole being has been changed about how we feel about it. So it's always about now, right? My conscience hasn't been shifted back in 1945 at Auschwitz. It's shifted now. And I see, oh my God, right? All these people who were murdered there and all the people who murdered them are me, right? That's me. I was the perpetrator and I was the victim, and I am the perpetrator and I am the victim.
I am the perpetrator and I am the victim. That's a hard sentence to sit with, but it's the center of what Zen Peacemakers mean by this work. The line you'd like to draw between yourself and the people who did this and the people it was done to, you slowly stop being able to find it.
What we see in these bearing witness retreats is that everybody feels like me. And particularly within our council groups, we're hearing people express our feelings, right? I mean, that's what we're listening to. And so when we've had experiences like that, and they're intense and they are consciousness shifting, and as they're intended to be, we're better suited to be human beings in this world with the population of the world and everybody as they are.
And once that line is gone, the retreat stops being about a museum in Poland. It shows up in the present tense. An Israeli, a Jew, sitting at Auschwitz, describes a small thing he did with a candle.
Here in Auschwitz, I lit a candle for a Palestinian girl that was killed during the conflict. An Israeli, Jewish Israeli, lighting a candle for a Palestinian girl in Auschwitz, because these are the ripple effects coming from this awful place and how they affect others.
Uyase shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'yeberev, amen.
A Jewish man at Auschwitz, lighting a candle for a Palestinian child. That isn't history. That's now. That's the whole thing in a single gesture. There's one more turn, and it's about who this place belongs to. Bernie again, with Jishu, his wife and co-founder.
In a way, Auschwitz belongs to the Jews. Auschwitz also belongs to the Gypsies. Auschwitz also belongs to the Catholics. That's the place where the Catholics, Polish Catholics, were liquidated. Auschwitz belongs to the intellectuals. It's the place where the intellectuals were liquidated.
Auschwitz belongs to the German nation because there's so many Germans who either denied that camps existed and have to work that out, or Germans who actually worked in the camps.
And nowadays it's the children. You know, as we say, 7 generations feel the effects. Well, it's more. In my understanding, we never forget.
And then Bernie says the thing that for me is the reason to make this episode at all. He goes back to the word remember, and he takes it apart.
For the word itself, remember, to remember, means to make whole again. And that's what happens when we hide all these things. We are breaking ourselves into fragments. And it's a sickness. And the healing of that sickness has to be a remembrance.
To put the pieces back together. That's the million souls who want to go home, and the parts of ourselves that want to come home too. The whole retreat, all of it, is one long act of remembering.
I would just like to ask you, since I invited in some way many of you to come here, I invite you to bear witness, and in your mind to say, what will I do when I go home? You have many options, but choose one.
I came into this thinking a bearing witness retreat was a way of looking at the worst thing people have ever done, so that we might do better. But that isn't what any of them said. They didn't go to Auschwitz to change the world. They went to let the place change them, until the blaming and the forgetting burn off, and what's left is a person who can stay present with another's suffering without turning away. And maybe that's where taking action actually begins. Not in a plan to fix things, but in the moment you stop being able to see anyone as entirely other than yourself. The Auschwitz-Birkenau Bearing Witness Retreat is held each November by Zen Peacemakers. You can learn more at www.zenpeacemakers.org. I'm Jim. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.
The Peacemakers Podcast is a production of Zen Peacemakers, an international organization whose mission is to realize our oneness and relieve suffering through contemplative social action. You can find the full video recording of this podcast and more at www.zenpeacemakers.org and go to our media library.